Australia has raised concern over China's extensive live-fire drill near Taiwan earlier this week. The drills came hours before China's President Xi Jinping said the reunification of Taiwan with the mainland was, quote, unstoppable. Well, joining us live is Senior Research Fellow for Naval Warfare at the Allison Centre for National Security, Brent. Sadler. Brent, thank you so much for joining us. And if we look at China's military drills around the Taiwan area, and you recently describing these drills as a full dress rehearsal for a blockade and invasion of Taiwan. Talk us through that.
Yes, this is the sixth iteration of these drills since 2022, triggered by our Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taipei. And every time the Chinese, the mainland Chinese, have used this as a way to further refine and practice what would be a large-scale joint operation. And so in this latest iteration, the sixth one called Justice Mission 2025, 130 aircraft started it off. There was a live fire demonstration of a new anti-ship ballistic missile that was fired from a Chinese Type 55 destroyer around a series of exclusion areas or drill sites around Taiwan. And not surprisingly, these were centered on major ports to the north and to the south, and also potential landing areas for an invasion. And clearly, the Chinese would prefer to avoid firing a shot to win or to prevail in a conflict over the fate of Taiwan. But they certainly are practicing what would be a blockade. And in any case, that would likely lead to a full-scale invasion to, reassert their diktat over all of Taiwan.
And Brent, I want to get your reaction on the fresh strikes the US military has carried out on drug smugglers, killing at least 5 people. What can you tell us here?
Yeah, there's an ongoing debate about the efficacy and the legality. But if you set that aside, for many, many years now, there's been a war against these narco cartels. It's largely centered in on legal kind of mechanisms, and there just isn't the capacity, and it hasn't been effective to curtail or to slow the infusion of these poisons into the United States. And in the last few years, with our very weak border protections, that's now changed. You saw the deaths on an annual basis skyrocket up to well over 100,000 from 2022, 23, and 24. It seems to be coming down now. But again, the cartels are a trillion-dollar industry that center their markets in the United States and in Western Europe. And until that's put out of business, or their ability to raise money, they have a protection racket that money goes to. Regimes like Maduro's in Venezuela, they'll continue to be able to move their products. And I think also increasing to Asia, to the shores in Australia, as well as into Japan and South Korea.
And Brent, President Trump mentioned in his press conference alongside President Zelensky a couple of days ago that he heard Iran wants to make a deal that's much smarter. Donald Trump then went on and said that we could have last time, in fact, made the deal before the big attack. They wish they made the deal. What's your take on this? Because Iran is wanting new guidelines from the IAEA before agreeing to inspections of their 3 nuclear sites.
I think the key thing here is the Iranian regime is buying for time, quite frankly. They certainly don't want to give up their ballistic missile programs nor their nuclear weapons development program. They have gone to great lengths to try to resurrect that and to bring back, expand their deeply buried infrastructure that was attacked over the summer. What they really, I think, are after is time and perhaps economic relief so that they can continue, unabated or more importantly, to last out the President Trump's administration and to perhaps have a more placid or more amenable leadership in Washington, D.C. in the future. Right now, the regime is facing some severe protests across the country that appear to be spreading. So I think they're trying to find some relief from the outside pressures as they turn inside.
And we know that the 3 sites, Natanz, Fordo and Isfahan, those military strikes that were struck by the US, the damage is unknown. So what are we going to be looking out for here?
Well, we know the Iranians have recently were trying to get a shipment of key components for the ballistic missile program. This is how they would deliver a nuclear weapon from China. That was intercepted by U.S. forces in the Indian Ocean about a month ago. These nuclear programs, I mean, set back perhaps several years, there are several different methods they can use, plutonium as well as uranium, and they continue to press on several of these fronts to try to resurrect the nuclear program. If they are able to get that, or indications are that they are getting close to, reestablishing these developmental programs and production of nuclear weapons, at least President Trump has said he will strike again, as have the Israelis. And again, the question is, will we have the political backing to do that again, and also the military capacity? There's a lot of questions about the fate of Diego Garcia, which was an important logistics staging ground for some of those attacks.
Yeah, very interesting points indeed. Brent Sadler, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.